Hey everybody, it's Josh here. Welcome to a very, very hot and humid day here in Kentucky. I don't know, it's in the 90s out here. It's humid, it's hot, it's brutal, but the beekeeping can't wait. So I'm slowly getting through these hives, putting on a third round of ApiGuard. Some of the hives I've done splits on that were packed. You may have watched my last video where I removed all of the supers that are left on these hives. I've had a couple issues with some hives. I've had a couple hives perform a Harry Houdini on me and they're just gone. They disappeared. That's what's called absconding. It's your best guess as to why. It's my best guess as to why. Could be for a multitude of reasons. Could be the ApiGuard, even though that's not super common, but they may have said, you know, holy cow, this stuff stinks, I'm out of here. Could have been that the mite loads on those particular hives were pretty high and therefore they just decided to abscond and leave. That's also a possibility. Regardless, I've already taken care of one or two of those hives. I've disassembled it. So hive number 5 here, had to take that one down and disassemble the equipment. I plan on doing a intro to beekeeping 101 video coming up for those of you that are looking to get started into beekeeping and some of the basics that you need to know and some tips and tricks that you might want to look into before you get started in your beekeeping adventure. So be on the lookout for that video. I will try to post that one soon. The other thing I'm doing is I'm feeding sugar syrup on all of these hives. So as soon as I pull the supers, it is time to treat for mites and it is time to feed. These hives are very low on food. We're in a dearth here in Kentucky. There's not a whole lot of natural nectar sources available for these bees to forage on. It has rained here the past couple of days, so that's always good. However, it's time to feed sugar syrup. If you're gonna pull, you know, a decent amount of honey off your hives, make sure you return the favor in kind to your bees by feeding them sugar syrup. There's actually a lot of research out there that supports the bees overwinter better on sugar syrup than they do honey itself. So look it up, do some research on that. I think Bob Benny posted a really good video on that. So anyway, it's time to get these hives chocked full of syrup. It's early August here in Kentucky, and we need to get these hives with a decent amount of weight before we head into the fall period. The fall flow here is hit or miss. Sometimes we get a fall flow, sometimes we don't get any. So you've got to go ahead and get this sugar and syrup into the hives so that they can be prepared for the winter. So I'll go ahead and take you guys along for the ride and show you how I do this. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to hive number 6 here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and glove up because the girls are a little cranky. I've already gotten tagged a couple times on the fingers. And that can happen this time of year when there's just not a lot of food sources available. You got a lot of the foragers that are hanging out in the colony. Not much to do. They're probably not thrilled with the ApiGuard that's on. I also want to point out I bought a new mic. Hopefully this sounds a lot better. I was just using the built-in mic on my phone. I had kind of a cheaper one I was trying out too, and I don't think it was working too well. So hopefully y'all can hear me a lot better on this one. You'll have to let me know in the comments if the audio quality is any better. I'm trying. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I've got my smoker. I tell you, these horseflies are out. I can't stand horseflies. We got giant ones around here, the size of your thumb. And they like to take a chunk out of you, that's for sure. All right. On a good note, all 4 hives 1 through 4, well, semi-good note, 1 through 3 seem to be doing really good. Hive number 4 is mostly empty. So it's one of those ones that did a Houdini on me. What I think happened, and I'll show you here in just a second after I get this number chip up. So what I think happened on hive number 4, I think it swarmed on me. It was a pretty full hive after I pulled the supers down and I put that ApiGuard on there, and I'm suspecting the queen was just like, peace, I'm out of here. I walked out in the yard a couple days ago before I left for vacation. This was like 4 or 5 days ago. And I saw a huge swirl of bees and they were swarming. Of course, I was getting ready to leave for vacation. There's nothing I could do about it. So I watched them go into a tree over here across the field. And when I came back from vacation, this is what I found. So this is not bearding activity. At least I don't believe it's bearding activity. They're not fanning. This is somewhat bearding activity. You can hear them fanning. Hear that? They're fanning their wings, trying to cool down the hive at the entrances. So it's a little hot in there. It's probably stinky because of the ApiGuard also. But this, I believe, is an aborted swarm. And I think, I don't know for sure, because I looked quite a bit yesterday, I think something happened to the queen. So I think these bees took off and swarmed in this tree over here, which is where I found them. And then I left, figuring when I came back, all signs would be gone. But then I noticed this on the front of this hive. And I believe this is a swarm where either something happened to the queen, maybe she perished, lost the queen, something, and they have attempted to return to the hive. They are not going in the hive. And this even has a Vivaldi board on it, so there's actually an entrance right here. And they're just hanging out. So I haven't quite figured out what I'm going to do with this colony yet. I may try to combine this colony with a queen right colony. Maybe a colony that could really use a boost of bees, a smaller colony that I'm trying to nurse into winter. But I don't believe there is a queen anywhere out here. Could be wrong, but I looked considerably yesterday and I didn't see anything. But they are literally just chilling out here. And they do not necessarily want to go in this hive. Which tells me they're, I don't know. So anyway, I was kind of scratching my head on this one, what I'm going to do. But I think as I continue to go down the line here and inspect the rest of these hives, if I find one that's queen right, but relatively small in size, I may end up just combining them. I'll tell you what, colony number 3 has a queen that I just marked yesterday that I think they superseded a queen, even though she was brand new, 2023, maybe something was wrong with her. This colony doesn't have a very large population, so I may just combine those two. So, but that's for another time in another video. I'm going to continue to move down the line here and try to get the rest of the ApiGuard and the syrup on these colonies. So let's go ahead and dig into colony number 6 here. See how they're doing. Hive tool, of course. Where did I put my hive tool? Always have this problem. Surely I left it over here somewhere. Yep. Don't set your hive tools down, folks. All right, so let's see what we're looking at here. So I think I've said this many times, but always check, always check your inner cover for your queen. She could be hiding out around here. And that's the other thing. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about this now. When I was in colony number 3, I didn't see hardly any brood. I mean, matter of fact, I didn't see any. So I found a mated queen. I marked her. But then again, we're going into a dearth, a time when queen laying is going to be way low. And quite honestly, ApiGuard can cause your queen to temporarily stop laying, which is why the makers of ApiGuard tell you that you really shouldn't use it in the springtime or early spring. It's really meant to be sort of an early summer, midsummer treatment plan for that exact reason. So I'm going to go ahead and take this shim off. So I'm not super alarmed that I didn't see any signs of brood in that colony. There is a mated queen. Doesn't necessarily mean that anything's wrong with her. But it's something that I'll make a note of just to keep track. So they've really propolised this ApiGuard tray. They did a really good job removing it all, though. And this colony is pretty good size. So I see 9 to 10 seams of bees. So this is a rather large colony. Just removing all this propolis. And they're getting a little defensive on me. Not really surprised. But all I'm looking for in these quick inspections is I just want to quickly see if the colony's doing okay. I'm looking for signs of life. I don't have to find the queen. I'm looking for signs of her. I want to make sure that this colony is queen right and in good shape as I continue the mite treatments and get them ready for winter. So I'm just going to pull a couple frames here, see what we're looking at. Okay, looks good. And this would be the third round of ApiGuard for these hives. They're just, I mean, there's just no, there's a little bit of food on this frame, a little bit up here through the middle towards the top. Nice fresh wax though, nice comb. Just quickly scanning for the queen, any signs. I don't see any. Like I said, a little bit of food in the cells here. And I'm going to keep working my way towards the middle. Okay, a little bit of bee bread in here. Some nice yellow pollen. We should be getting, I'm still seeing drones, so plenty of drones in colonies. So if you're looking to do any splits, now is a good time of year to do some splits. My colonies that were stuffed after I pulled those supers, so here's some brood. So a little bit of brood here. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's not much more than that, but I'll bring it over here for the camera so you can see. I just quickly scan it for the queen. But it's a good time if you have colonies that are really large and you want to split them. Now's a good time to do some splits, getting them ready. So we still have drones. If you can see the brood in the comb there, little bitty larva. That's a nice pearly white color in a C shape. That's a good healthy sign there. That's what we're looking for. I don't, are those eggs? Yes, there's some tiny little, see that egg right there? There's an egg right there, egg right there. So the queen's been on this frame within the past 3 days. So realistically, I can stop my inspection right now. I may look at one more frame, but I've pretty much seen everything I need to see on this colony, and I really don't want to disturb them any more than is necessary. So I'm just gonna, a little more puff of smoke here. I'll look at one more frame here and then I'm done. And this colony is actually looking really healthy for winter time. So here's a frame of emerging brood. And I got real smart larvae and eggs on this frame as well. I see several drones. Again, bring it over here and show you for the camera. You can see the larvae that's just a couple days old too. Hopefully you can make it out here on the camera. Hang on, let me blow on them. That's a trick. You can blow on your bees if you want to get them out of the way. So I don't know if you can see down in those cells, kind of hard. But you can see the larvae pretty small down in there. Let me see if I can get the camera to focus here. Look down in there, see them? Teeny tiny. It takes a good eyes, trained eye to be able to spot this stuff. If you have a hard time with it, just keep practicing. It takes a little bit of time to be able to identify. But once you know what you're looking for, you can see it. And if you have trouble with your eyes, or if, you know, it's hard for you to see small, take a magnifying glass out with you. I know a few beekeepers that use magnifying glasses, and it works pretty well for them. You got to be able to see this stuff, so whatever you need to be able to look down in those cells and be able to assess how the colony is doing is important. So I'm done, folks. That's it. I do not need to find the queen. This colony is queen right, full of bees, doing really well. A bit agitated that I'm in here. Very normal this time of year. And so again, I just kind of clean up the tops here as I prepare for that ApiGuard strip. So I've watched Bob Binney chew on this stuff. This is propolis. Let me show you. It is a super, super, and I mean super sticky, squishy ball of goop that the bees make from tree sap, amongst other things. And it's said to have very, health benefits, properties, very healthy properties to it, beneficial. I don't know exactly what. I admittedly have not done a lot of research on this. The bees use it to seal the hive up, to prevent ants and other critters from being able to get in to get that delicious honey that they've worked so hard to collect. And it's really effective, really, really effective. But if you can help your colonies keep pests away and ants and other stuff like that, in my experience, they don't tend to propolis as much. I had a colony over here that had 1 billion ants in it the other day, and I I dusted diatomaceous earth all around the base of this hive, shook all those ants out. The whole inner cover was black. I couldn't see the inner cover. It was black with ants. And they had propolis that inner cover hole. So they had completely covered this with propolis to keep the ants that were in here from being able to get in the hive. It was pretty slick. So I killed all those ants, got rid of them all, dusted with diatomaceous earth, which is a physical form of killing. So obviously you don't want to use pesticides or any chemical around your bees. You'll end up killing all your bees and your hives. That would be terrible. So what you can do is use diatomaceous earth, which is crushed up crustacean shells. And that is a physical kill, meaning an insect has to physically crawl through the diatomaceous earth to die. It cuts up their exoskeleton, and I believe they somehow, I forget exactly what it does to them, but it kills them somehow either through, honestly, I don't know. I know it cuts up the exoskeleton. I just don't know exactly what that causes as a result of. It could be suffocation or something along those lines. But the ants will physically have to crawl through the diatomaceous earth to get from the ground to the hive, which is where they're marching to and from. The bees, generally speaking, are not on the ground or anywhere around the hive. They're going in and out of the front of the hive. So it's I find it is a very effective way to treat for ants if you don't have a fancy system where your beehives are in somewhat of a water moat, because a water barrier is probably the best barrier for ants. So if you can figure out, I used to have my stand here, I used to have these in plastic tubs, but out here in the elements in the winter and the summer and the cracking and everything, the plastic tubs ended up not holding water very well. And then it ended up being a breeding ground for mosquitoes as well. So it was like a double whammy. So I just got rid of that. And now the bees, for, hundreds and thousands, maybe 1 million years, I don't know how long bees have been around, but they've been dealing with ants. They know how to deal with ants. But if we can help them, I think by dusting with the diatomaceous earth, I find has been pretty effective. So I'm curious what other forms of ant control you all use, but I find that one pretty effective. So let's go ahead and get the ApiGuard on this colony. So this is going to be round 3. So I just stick that right above the brood area. Comes with this little fancy syringe. Get my bucket open here. And I will extract 25 milliliters, which equates to pretty close to 25 grams. This stuff is not an exact science. Squirt it. Shake your excess off. It's that easy. Now, I have these shims that I've been using, but these colonies need food. They're low on food. I don't want them to starve. I don't want the population to turn south with these winter bees, the fat bees that the queen is getting ready to lay. I want her to make good, healthy bees, and I want to have a lot of nutrition and good nutrition for them. So I'm not going to put the shim back on, but you have to have some sort of shim here because you don't want to just squish your inner cover right into this thymol, right into this ApiGuard. So this is where the Vivaldi board comes into play. So this is a Vivaldi board. If you've not seen one of these before, I would encourage you to go watch one of my previous videos that I posted called The Amazing Vivaldi Board. It's pretty slick. It has multiple purposes. I won't go into that in great detail. Again, I would encourage you to go watch that video. I'll post a link to that video at the very end of this one just so you have easy access to it. But it does have enough of a lip here about, oh, I don't know, that's probably about 1/2 inch, maybe a little bit more, maybe 5/8, hard to tell. And that's enough to not touch the thymol, to give enough barrier there. And it's got this hole right here through the middle of it, and another entrance up top, which for when you're treating with ApiGuard, that's not the best thing to have, but it's okay. It's a small entrance. But what I'm going to do is I just put this Vivaldi board on top, and then I have these feeders, sugar syrup feeders, that if you've watched some of my other videos, you've seen me use these last year and the year before. They're on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description as well. They're titled hummingbird feeders, which makes zero sense to me how this feeds a hummingbird. I have no clue. But it's a great bee feeder. So it's got this little plastic insert. Let me show the camera. Both of these pieces are made of plastic. So it's got this bottom piece here that's got these little ridges that the bees can climb on. And then it's got this little plastic insert here that goes over top. And you want to make sure that you align this hole right here with those plastic legs. So what happens is, and then you pour the syrup in there, and then this goes over the top. So the bees can come up here from the hive. They climb up, they climb down that little ridge, and they can drink the sugar syrup in here. And what's nice about this is it allows me to take off the top of the hive, the top of this, refill the syrup, and I don't have to disrupt the hive whatsoever. Don't have to disrupt the bees. I don't even wear a suit. I come out here in my shirt and my t-shirt and shorts and fill the sugar syrup up. So these things are pretty handy. They're not expensive. I want to say it's like 2 for $20 or something like that. Really, really inexpensive. And because of the size, the Vivaldi board works really well instead of having to use one of your empty honey supers, your mediums or shallows, whatever. So the Vivaldi board works great for these. And I have a Vivaldi board for every hive, so because I use it to overwinter also. So I just set this right over that Vivaldi cover hole. And then I made this little handy dandy bucket and drilled a little port there. And that's how easy to fill it up. Now, is this a great deal of sugar? No. Syrup, I mean, this is probably 1/4 of a gallon maybe that it holds. So do I have to come out here occasionally and refill it like every other day? Yeah, I do. But I'm not a commercial guy, so for a backyard enthusiast like myself, it's really not that big of a deal. You know, it only takes me probably, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes to get through every single hive and refill it. So works pretty well, I find. I really like to use those bucket feeders, which hold a gallon of syrup. But the problem is you have to have a lot of extra equipment. So you'd have to have an empty deep, because I never open feed. Do not open feed, my God. And especially during a dearth. So even if you want to use those Boardman feeders and the other open feeders, which I just don't recommend, just do not do it during a dearth. You will set off robbing, and you will be kicking yourself and mad at yourself for doing that. So I always feed, always feed internally. I do not feed outside of the hive, or you're just asking for trouble. So then you just take your inner cover here and you just put it right on top of the Vivaldi board. And that's it. It's that easy. And the bees will come up and find that sugar lickety split, and they will suck that down. And then you can just come out here and refill it as needed. Now, I thought you didn't want to feed while you were treating with ApiGuard. So I thought I had read that somewhere. Maybe it was on Datant's frequently asked questions for ApiGuard. I can't remember where I read it, but I thought the problem is the bees will ignore the thymol and they will take in the sugar syrup instead of focusing on carrying the ApiGuard out of the hive, which is how it works. So the way that the thymol works is by spreading throughout the hive as the cleaning bees grab the ApiGuard, the little white gel, and carry it out the front door, passing by, hundreds of bees in the process. And that kills any of the phoretic mites or mites that are out. I do not believe ApiGuard penetrates capped brood, which is why you need to treat for 3 weeks or 4 weeks. I'm doing 4 weeks, is because you want to get through a complete brood cycle. That's the whole reason why, to have a chance to kill every mite that is not under capped brood, whether it's a phoretic mite or a mite that's walking around in the hive looking for its next host. So turns out I was wrong. So I talked to my buddy Dave Hansberry, and he was questioning, why aren't you feeding while you're treating? And I explained to him I thought that you couldn't do that because of what I just explained. And he said, no, I don't think so. So he's had success with bees still doing the hygienic behavior and carrying the thymol out the front door while still taking down and drawing down the sugar syrup. So that's what I'm trying, because these hives need food. I was sitting here, I was asking Jake Barker, who's our local EAS master and certified beekeeper, Cornell master certified beekeeper. And I was asking him, okay, what takes precedence here? Food or mites? Food or mites? If your mite loads are high, do you need to treat for mites and risk starving the colony if we're in a dearth and there's no? So the answer is mites take the precedence. You should treat. So I started treating first, thinking as soon as I got through this round of ApiGuard, I'd go ahead and feed these colonies. Turns out I don't have to wait. So now I switched from these shims to the Vivaldi boards that are going to allow me to feed while still treating for ApiGuard. So that's the mite management that I choose to do. I think I explained in my last video, I use a combination of ApiGuard and oxalic acid, and it's worked well for me for the most part. Now, this colony that's missing here, I opened it yesterday. It was doing just fine a couple weeks ago, and I opened it yesterday, and they just Harry Houdini'd on me. Poof, gone. There was like maybe 10 bees on frame, so I just shook the rest of those bees out. I don't know. I don't know what happened to them. Seem to be doing fine. I have no idea. So, but that's beekeeping. You win some, you lose some. You've got some great hives like this one that are kicking butt and taking names. And you've got, excuse me, other hives that just disappear on you, Maybe it's some of those Russian traits. I was talking to Jake about this. There's like a 10 or 15% Africanized bees in Kentucky. I didn't know that. That seems really high to me, but wow, it's kind of scary. But they could have some Africanized traits in there, and those bees readily abscond. Like Africanized honeybees abscond all the time. So who knows? I don't know. But that's okay. Now I have extra equipment, and you do another split or you catch another swarm in the spring, and such is the life cycle of the beekeeper. So it goes in a circle. You get a new colony, you get a new swarm, does great. Some swarms don't. You got equipment, new equipment, and so blah, blah, blah. But anyway, so that's it. That's how I feed the colony, treat the colony for mites now. Like I said, it's the third round. I'll do one more round a week from now. That'll be the fourth and final round of 25 grams of ApiGuard. Then the ApiGuard will be done, and it's going to just be feeding, and then doing a weight test, either through hefting or just examining frames and trying to eyeball exactly how much food these singles have going into the wintertime. I'd really like to try to get as much sugar syrup in here as possible where that's all that they need. I'd rather not use sugar brick if I don't have to, but also it makes me sleep better at night knowing it's there if they need it. I know there's some downsides to feeding sugar brick. I know the preference is sugar syrup. This fall, I'll switch to a heavier 2-to-1. This sugar syrup right now is 1-to-1. So if they're probably not going to draw wax, but if they need to, they could. But really, they've got enough draw and comb in here where I'm hoping they're just going to keep storing it. So that's the goal right now. I've got 9 more hives to go through. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you liked it, go ahead and give it the thumbs up, and I'll see you guys on the next one.